I used to think love was the big moments, the wedding day, the first house, the grandkids being born. I'm Robert. I'm 84 years old, and it took me losing my wife to finally understand what love actually is. Elisabeth and I met when we were 19. She was working at a diner near the university, and I was an engineering student who couldn't afford to eat anywhere else. She had this way of remembering everyone's order, everyone's name, everyone's story. She'd ask the truck drivers about their routes, the traveling salesmen about their families. She made people feel seen, and when she looked at me, I felt like I was the only person in the room. We got married 6 months later. Everyone said we were too young, too impulsive. Her mother cried at the wedding, and not in a good way. But Elisabeth just squeezed my hand during the ceremony and whispered that we'd figure it out together. And we did. For 61 years, we figured it out together. We had 3 kids. I worked long hours at the plant, came home tired most nights. Elisabeth raised those children with a patience I never quite understood. She was the one who sat up with them when they were sick, who helped with homework, who knew which teacher was giving which kid trouble. I provided, she nurtured. That's how we thought it worked back then. I'm not saying it was right, just how it was. The kids grew up and moved away, like kids do. And then it was just the 2 of us again, like it had been in the beginning. We'd sit on the porch in the evenings. She'd do crossword puzzles, I'd read the paper. We didn't always talk much, but the silence was comfortable. She'd reach over sometimes and pat my knee, and I'd cover her hand with mine. I thought that was intimacy. I thought I understood what we had. The forgetting started small. She'd lose her keys, forget why she walked into a room. We laughed about it at first, called it senior moments. But then, she forgot our grandson's name at his high school graduation. She looked at him receiving his diploma and whispered to me, asking who that handsome young man was. The confusion in her eyes wasn't funny anymore. The diagnosis came on a Tuesday, Alzheimer's disease, progressive, no cure. The doctor was kind, but direct. He talked about timelines and care options and what to expect. Elisabeth sat very still beside me, holding her purse in her lap. On the drive home, she asked me 3 times where we were going. Each time, I answered gently. Each time, my chest got a little tighter. The first few years, she still knew me most days. She'd have episodes where she'd get confused about what year it was, or she'd think our kids were still children, but she always knew my face. She'd see me and smile, say, "There's my Robert." I held on to those words like a drowning man holds onto a rope. I became her caregiver. Our daughter wanted us to consider a facility, somewhere with professionals who knew how to handle this disease, but I couldn't do it. This was Elisabeth, the woman who'd stood beside me through 3 layoffs, 2 surgeries, and the death of our middle son in a car accident when he was just 28. The woman who'd held me while I sobbed like a child after we buried him. I wasn't going to hand her over to strangers now. So I learned. I learned how to help her dress when buttons became mysteries. I learned how to redirect her when she got agitated. I learned how to make the foods she'd always loved, following the recipes she'd written in her cramped handwriting decades ago. I learned how to be patient in ways I'd never been patient before. The day she forgot my name, I was making her breakfast. Scrambled eggs, the way she liked them, with a little cheese and black pepper. She came into the kitchen in her nightgown, looking uncertain. I smiled at her, said good morning. She studied my face for a long moment, and I could see her searching, trying to find me in her fractured memory. Then she said, very politely, "I'm sorry, but I don't know who you are." I stood there with the spatula in my hand, eggs burning in the pan, and something cracked open inside my chest. She didn't know me. After 61 years of marriage, I was a stranger in her kitchen. I turned off the stove, took a breath, and introduced myself. "I'm Robert," I said. "I'm your husband, and I'm here to take care of you." She relaxed a little at that, nodded, said it was nice to meet me. Then she asked when her husband would be home. She wanted to make sure he got his breakfast. I called our daughter that night after Elisabeth was asleep. I broke down on the phone, sobbed in a way I hadn't since we buried our son. "She's gone," I told my daughter. "Your mother is gone, and I'm living with a stranger who has her face." My daughter cried too, told me she loved me, told me we could still look at care facilities. But after we hung up, I sat in the dark living room and thought about what I'd said. That Elisabeth was gone. But she wasn't gone. She was asleep in our bedroom, breathing softly under the quilt her grandmother had made. She still hummed tunelessly while I helped her get dressed. She still loved strawberry ice cream and got upset when birds didn't come to the feeder. She still existed, still moved through the world, still felt things even if she couldn't name them. The person who was gone was the Elisabeth who knew me, who remembered our history, who could look at me and see all the decades we'd built together. That Elisabeth had slipped away. But this Elisabeth, this woman who greeted me as a friendly stranger every morning, she was still here. She still needed care. She still deserved love. And that's when something shifted in me, some understanding that I can't quite put into words even now. For our entire marriage, I'd loved Elisabeth because of what we shared. The memories, the inside jokes, the history. I loved her because she was mine and I was hers, and we had this whole life woven together. But now, she didn't remember any of it. The wedding, the kids, the house we'd bought, the vacations we'd taken, the crisis we'd weathered, all of it was gone from her mind. So if she didn't remember me, didn't remember us, what was I loving now? The answer came slowly, over months of introducing myself each morning, of being met with polite confusion or sometimes fear when I got too close too quickly, of having to court my own wife, earn her trust every single day like we were meeting for the first time. I was loving her because of who she was. Right now, in this moment, not who she'd been, not what she remembered, but the person in front of me who needed help and gentleness and care. She started calling me the nice man when she talked to our daughter during visits. "The nice man made me lunch," she'd say. "The nice man helped me find my sweater." Our daughter would cry after these calls, but I found I didn't mind the name. I wanted to be the nice man. I wanted to be someone she felt safe with, even if she couldn't remember why. There was a day, maybe 6 months after she stopped knowing my name, when I was helping her into bed. She looked up at me with those eyes that used to hold 61 years of shared life and now held only the present moment. She touched my face very gently and said, "You take such good care of me. I think I might be falling in love with you." I had to turn away so she wouldn't see me cry. Because in that moment, I understood this was what love actually was. Not the memories or the history or the promises we'd made when we were young and stupid and thought love was about never changing. Love was this, choosing her every single morning, feeding her, bathing her, sitting with her while she watched TV shows she'd seen 100 times but always found delightful. Love was being patient when she asked the same question 12 times. Love was staying. All those years when I thought I was loving Elisabeth, I was really loving the reflection of myself I saw in her eyes. I loved being her husband, being the man she chose, being part of the story we told ourselves about who we were. But now there was no story. There was no reflection. There was just her, and just me, and just the daily choice to show up with gentleness. She's been gone now for 2 years. Pneumonia took her on a Sunday morning, and I held her hand while she slipped away. She didn't know who I was at the end, but I knew who she was. I knew every line of her face, every gray hair, every spot where age had marked her skin. I knew her not because of our history, but because I'd spent years learning her all over again, without the buffer of memory. At the funeral, people said things meant to comfort me. They said, "At least she's at peace now. At least she's not suffering. At least I can remember her as she was before the disease." But they were wrong about that last part. I don't want to remember her as she was before. I want to remember all of it. The vital young woman, and the middle-aged mother, and the elderly stranger who let me help her, because it was all her. Every version, every stage. My daughter helps me around the house now. The kids want me to sell the place, move into something smaller, maybe closer to one of them, but I'm not ready yet. This is where Elisabeth and I had breakfast every morning for decades. This is where I reintroduced myself to her every day for years. This is where I learned what love actually means. I see young couples sometimes, holding hands, looking at each other like the other person hung the moon. And I want to tell them something, but I know they wouldn't understand yet. Nobody understands until they've lived it. But I want to tell them that the easy part is loving someone who reflects your best self back to you. The hard part, the real part, is loving someone who can't reflect anything back at all. Who can't remember your name, or your life together, or why you matter. That's when you find out if love is real, when there's no reward for it, except the doing of it. When the person you're caring for doesn't thank you because they don't understand what you're sacrificing. When you have to be grateful for the smallest things, a moment of clarity, a genuine smile, a hand reaching for yours, not because they remember you, but because you feel safe.